In this video, we'll start building the low polygon model for the bottom jaw. So now that we have our reference images set to a layer, I'm going to go ahead and start by first creating a poly primitive. So I'll go up to poly primitives and create a plane. Let's turn off the visibility of our layer here so we can just see what the plane looks like. I'm going to change the subdivisions to 1, so we start with a square or a quad, which is a good start for modeling. Again, it's at the 0, 0 position so that it's right in the center. And you can see the pivot points right in the center. I'm just going to move it up a little bit so it's over the images. And then we can go ahead and begin by selecting the edges. So I just right-clicked, select edges. Now I'll go into Edit Mesh and we'll do an Extrude. I'm going to click on the little circle indicator. And once I do that, you'll notice that the pivot point jumps to the center. So now I can extrude the edges out by scaling up. So everything creates a loop. I'm going to take a look and see what the plane is. So here we can look in the side view and see that the plane is directly on the 0, 0 axes. So we're going to begin by starting to move some of these edges down and in and cutting more edges in. So I'm just looking at different views and different perspectives, top view, side views, and the perspective view, so that I can make sure I'm using my image plane references to better shape the shape of this cage. So I'm going to insert an edge loop around, and you'll notice since we extruded that loop out, the loop cuts all the way around. Now with selecting the face in the center there, I can kind of move it down to create the bottom of the mouth. So this will represent the bottom of the mouth here. So I'm just moving that face with the move tool down. I'm going to select all the edges by double clicking on the edge. I'm going to deselect the back edge. I don't want that one selected. I just want the 3 that kind of go around, and I'm going to move those down. And you'll see as I move them down here, this will be the side of the mouth or side of the jaw. I want to make sure here by closing this that they go lower than the actual inner part of the mouth. You notice that I also can turn on and off up here on the menu, the grid, or I can turn on X-ray mode, and things like that. So sometimes it's better to see if you turn on wireframe on shaded or something. There I went into display, mesh display, and I turned on hard edges. And here I'm turning on my wireframe on shaded in the display port. I'm going to go and I'm going to start to append. So with the append, I just click from one side to the next, and that will close that area. So that's the bottom of the jaw. With the append, I'm going to go to the back, click and drag, and now I've closed off that area of the back. So now I have the kind of square shape of the jaw, so the inside and around. So I'm beginning to cut edge loops. I'm going to cut one directly in the center axes of both horizontal and vertical, and I'll scale that edge loop so that it straightens it all the way around. And I'm selecting vertices, right click, select vertices, and I'm clicking and dragging the vertices out to, again, shape what I want. I'm going to select these 2 faces in the back, and we'll do an extrude. And I'm just going to pull them back. And I'm going to select the vertices, and when I'm doing this in the side view, remember I'm selecting vertices all the way around the model. Again, using my reference, so if I click and drag, that's selecting all the vertices all the way around, not just the 2 on the side, all the way around. And again, I'm just looking to make sure that everything is the correct shape. I'm going to select these 2 faces on the back, to scale them in a little bit. Then I'll select the 2 edges, and I'm going to do an extrude. I'm going to hit W and just move them out in Z. With them out in Z, I'm going to make sure they're positioned. I'll hit R for scale, and then I will just scale them in so they're straight. So scaling is a good way to kind of make sure that those edges can kind of scale to each other to straighten them out. So this way, this will be kind of the wall or the area for the hinge that we're going to put on the back. So I'm just looking to make sure here, so I'm going to use scale again just to kind of move them out. So I select the vertices and scale. If I hit 3, we can see what it looks like. You can see the back hinges are kind of curving too much around the edge, so I'm going to go in to my mesh tools, and I'm going to insert edge loop, and I'm going to insert an edge loop right close there, and I'm going to hit 4 to go into wireframe on the side mode so I can line up the cuts that I make on both sides, and again use scale to kind of bring them in so they're matching, so they're both the same on both sides. So now that I've done that, if I hit 3, you can see it's holding that edge, at least in the vertical direction. So now I have to go in the horizontal direction and make a cut or a loop all the way around. So again, with the insert edge loop, I'll do the top and the bottom, and that cuts it right up again. So now I hit 3, and we can see here, let me turn wireframe on shaded off, that we have a nice kind of harder edge. If we want one here as well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll scale it in to make sure that it's nice and straight. Move it up so it doesn't intersect any geometry. You can see that's a nice kind of straight edge there, so I have to do the same thing on the other side. So I'll do click and drag, go through. You can see it's intersecting right there, so I want to make sure that I move it up. I'm going to double click on that one so it selects that one all the way around, select my side view and scale in so they're both in the same position, they both match on either side. Now I hit 3 and you can see I've got a really nice tight edge over there where that would be the bracket. I'm going to start grabbing vertices and shaping. So I'll shape this wall a little bit better here. Maybe bring it down just a little bit. And go ahead and hit 3 so I can take a look at what it's beginning to look like. So I'm not concentrating on detail a lot. I'm only looking at kind of the edge loops that go around. So I want to hold a tight edge, around the inside of the mouth, so that way, it's more defined. But I'm not adding any details at this point, and I'm not just going in and cutting a whole bunch of edges. And when I do work on kind of one side right now, I'm also selecting the vertices for the other side and doing the same thing. So if I'm going to move that, you'll see I also select the other one, and instead of using the move tool, I use the scale tool if I'm going to try and bring them out, as opposed to just move them back in the z-axis. So we're just checking around. I'm going to grab these and scale them up a little bit. Same thing here. I'm going to take a look around, make sure everything's looking all right. We can turn off here, work underneath. Bring this out because the bottom of the jaw will be kind of rounded off. We don't want it to be flat. Again, a lot of this shaping and pulling and adding detail will occur when we bring it into a digital sculpting software like Mudbox or ZBrush. But you want to make sure that you have proper edge flow for what you're trying to do. So here I can see that I have a lot of inputs, so I'm going to do my edit, delete by type history, and modify freeze transformation, and that will 0 and 1 everything. I'm going to hit my insert key on my keyboard with it selected so I can move the pivot point to the back and hit insert again to lock it in place. Now if I hit E, we can see the rotation tool comes up and it rotates from the back of the jaw instead of from like the middle of the jaw. So we can take a look around, do our x-ray mode so we can kind of see through it, and again rotate it. Make sure it's back at the 0, 0 default position before you go ahead and move on. And next we'll start doing our low poly model for the top of the head.